This is Chicken Ball. Come at us, bro.
Welcome back to the Chicken Ball Pod. I'm your host, Andrew, joined this week by Mort and by Scott, cutting Ryan out, as we rightfully should. Mort, I missed the first 30 minutes of yesterday's match where we comprehensively beat possibly the worst team ever in the Premier League. Job right now, but I saw your note just before logging in to watch the match. He bail out. Naturally, he went on to score his first hat trick since 2012. What has Ryan Mason done to transform Gareth Bale back to 2012?
It's actually kind of funny. I'm really glad I'm not on Twitter anymore, because I would have put that on Twitter and I would have gotten blasted, and rightfully so. I put that in a couple friends group threads. Ours, I was not blasted. You guys kind of left me alone. In my other friends group, holy shit, man, I ate so much crow. And it was nonstop. Like, every time he scored, there would be a new round of 37 messages absolutely blasting me. So, no, he didn't do anything. I think if you look at the teams Bale has scored against, they're all, in the bottom 7 or something, whatever the stat is. He's only ever scored against the bottom 7 teams. But it doesn't matter. It's amazing. I'm super stoked that he had a hat trick. We've been crying and dying for this third goal scorer all season. Whenever any one of our players steps up that are not named Kane or Sonny, we do very, very well. I think Ryan Mason is also the beneficiary of two things. One is a very healthy squad, which, again, is amazing. He has the ability to select informed players. And I think, too, he is getting a little bit of new manager bump, right? I mean, unfortunate loss against City, but no one should have ever expected us to win that beyond just a hope, luck, and prayer. But I think in the last 2 matches, we won games we're supposed to, right? And I think that's what Ryan Mason did. He won the games he's supposed to. And I think you can say, to some extent, the match yesterday was in a very fashionable style, right? Like, we looked fucking awesome. It was fun watching us. It was annoying the first half of the match when we had a ton of chances, did nothing with it. But as the match progressed, that's why he played 90 minutes, not 45. As the match progressed, I think it was great. And I think Mason made a couple good adjustments. So, I think he did great. And I think it's awesome that we got the points that we needed to get. And now we move on to Leeds. So, yeah. Awesome. I'm super stoked.
Well, and you hit the point, right? Like, games that we were supposed to win, nobody gave us a chance to win against City, and it was pretty pathetic. Let's call it what it was. We never looked remotely dangerous, and when we did stupid things, with it. But we barely edged past Southampton, who I believe are the worst team in calendar year 2021. Mm-hmm. We did obviously comprehensively beat Sheffield, who, like I said, maybe on lowest points total team in the Premier League era. So that's not great. But besides that, obviously, we got the results, where we needed to get them from. So, is there anything tactically, like personnel you can easily focus on? Yeah, he brought in Ali. Yeah, he brought in Bale. Anything tactically look different to you?
Yes. I think the inclusion, I think the midfield adjustment, right? So he has removed Ndombele out of the picture. And that seems to be working in our benefit to some extent, because he's had Winks deployed out there. He's had Gio deployed out there. So he's trying a few different things. We've even seen Sissoko out there, who obviously ended up giving the goal up against City. But I think he's trying to get a different look out there, which is based more on possession than anything else, right? So he's not trying to essentially play the counter-attacking, against City, he parked the bus as he should have. But against Southampton and also against Sheffield, we are on the front foot, and you see that by his midfield desire to not lose the ball, keep as much possession as possible. Højbjerg and Winks have done a really good job of that. Gio also does a very, very good job of that, though. So I think we've seen that. Also, I think he's giving Harry Kane a ton of freedom. Harry Kane's always had that, but I saw Harry Kane in our defensive third picking the ball up, which usually he drops to midfield. I think now it's like, hey, Harry, just run around, do whatever the hell you want. So we're seeing Kane in areas that we don't normally see him. Again, we see him drop to midfield all the time, but I can't remember the last time I saw him dropping almost in between our defenders to pick the ball up, which, again, it could have been situational or positional, but you just don't see that. So I think he's made some minor adjustments, but I think ultimately, right, we are benefiting from a new manager bounce. He is, this is his boyhood club. He's got the passion, the love, the desire. He is not named Jose. So I think that's what we're seeing. That's where the value is coming from, not necessarily any type of, tactical adjustments.
Yeah. Scott, building on Mort's point about Ndombele, what we had heard where it was Ndombele wasn't, Mourinho's greatest fan and may have been one of the players who was celebrating. Well, 3 matches later, it doesn't in a cup final and doesn't play again yesterday, not even as a sub. And so, Mort had mentioned, a guy like Gio, who we'll talk a little bit about, after this, but any thoughts on, dropping Ndombele? What does that say?
So yeah, I was talking about this in a group I'm in earlier today. I really think that it's just Mason recognizing that he needs to keep things as simple as possible right now. And I just don't think Tanguy is necessarily simple, right? I think you deploy Tanguy in very specific ways, and his game's going to be, 65 minutes of kind of just being there, and then 25 minutes of some pretty impressive stuff. And that's probably more credit than I would give him. I think, maybe 15, 20 minutes of really making impact, and in the midfield kind of just being there, which I would say generally that's pretty fair. But in the midfield, I think you want a little bit more of an impact or whatever. I also think Tanguy, he didn't play under Poch at all, and he's not playing under Mason. So if he is one of the anti-Mourinhos in the locker room, I find that very strange because he played a lot of minutes under Mourinho. And I think Tanguy's, I'm kind of learning that I think there's this general conception, or we'll say misconception, that he's somebody who you want in a side that's going to have a lot of the ball, because I think he's actually pretty effective at breaking quickly. And I don't know. So it's a whole weird deal, but my gut tells me that it's just Mason knowing that he needs to keep things very simple. And Gio and Winks are just a little more simple in the way they play.
Well, it's funny you say Winks, because I could not believe that I was excited to see Harry Winks come on for Giovanni Lo Celso yesterday. Like, he was awful. I know, Ryan does this kind of thing where he claims this player coming back is going to save the season, which we've seen before from people being like, oh, Ben Davies is coming. Now we have a left back. Or the year before that, it was Eric Lamella's coming back. And this year, it was Giovanni Lo Celso who was coming back. And we've seen glimpses of some of his skill set. And like you said, maybe bringing in a player that was a little simpler, because Tanguy is a flair player, right? He does things with flair, whereas Gio's a hard worker. He plays aggressively. And I know he's coming back from injury, but he was pretty bad yesterday, just turning the ball over, not under pressure. And then Winks came on to, I guess, even simplify things further. But what's the deal with him? I mean, that's 117 million euros in 2 players who play the same position, like I think you pointed out, and neither of them are the player that we thought they would be.
It's tough, because I think Gio and Tanguy cost us $117 million between the two of them. And there's a lot of areas in our 11 where we could have used investment. And so, I think maybe under Pochettino, there was an idea that Giovanni was more of that Eriksen replacement and Tanguy was more of that Moussa Dembele replacement, as I think maybe how we justified that as a fan base, right? But it turns out that they're pretty similar players, and to have spent 117 million on 2 guys who really, Tanguy's made an impact this season. I mean, let's not act like he's done nothing or whatever, but they haven't made $117 million worth of an impact, in my opinion. And right back, as my background alludes to, is an area of concern, and center back's an area of concern, and 117 million again is a fuck ton of money. So, probably points to a deeper rooted issue that we've spoke about a lot of times on the show, and that's the piss poor scouting network that we have at Tottenham. Case in point with these 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I saw, I don't know what Spurs news source, and I use the term loosely, but, was saying that, Spurs are going to go back to just, instead of, buying stars, pinching players from the championship with potential. Like, when was that a thing? Like, did I miss that? Like, when have we just been, like, taking all these players from the championship? Like, we've watched plenty of other teams do it, with Jared Bowen, with Benrahma, with Ollie Watkins, all those players. Like, since when was that our thing? Like, that would actually be an improvement if we started taking players like that. Like, hopefully Joe Rogan is one
Dele Ali.
But he wasn't even the championship. He was League One, and that was
What was MK Don's League One?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, what's his name? Paul Mitchell. When he left, everything went fucking tits up, and Dele Ali was a Paul Mitchell deal. So I think that's a big piece of this, is the scouting department, and there is a direct correlation to Paul Mitchell being driven out by Levy. We know that. And then everything getting pretty dicey. But Dele Ali, League One, Paul Mitchell. But there hasn't been a whole lot of it. You're spot on.
Yeah, I mean, more, of course, the question had to come out today. And I know, like you said, you're off Twitter, and that's probably a good choice. The question had to come out. It was from the Spurs web. And the question was, it was a poll, yes or no, would you be comfortable giving Ryan Mason the full-time job? What could possibly, in some fans' mind, be a rationale for that?
I don't know, stupidity. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. Listen, love Ryan Mason. I love the fact he's a youth team. And I sincerely hope he goes on to have a great coaching career, right? But he's been in the gig for, what, 2 years, a year and a half, and only at the youth level? No. He's absolutely not going to manage a Champions League caliber type squad. The simple fact that he's younger than some of our key players, I think, kind of says it all, right? Plus, how the fuck is he going to recruit? Who's going to want to play for a 29-year-old with no experience, right? So I think people forget the impact of a manager when it comes to recruitment. So no, that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, we have way too many needs in the transfer market to hitch our wagon to the 29-year-old manager with no experience whatsoever. Now, 3 years ago, when we had just finished third with having one of the best squads in the league, if Brian Mason takes the job, sure, why not? Because we looked really good, and maybe that injection of homegrown passion would have helped our boys. But right now, absolutely not. We need to be going after like the real managers.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think most people, do agree to that, despite, obviously being a bit blinded by the fact that obviously he is a Spurs boy through and through. With 4 matches to play, just checking out the schedule here. So we've got Leeds, Wolves, Villa before Leicester. So clearly 3 matches that Spurs should win, right? And then I've seen it.
Well, it's Leeds away. It's Leeds away. Yeah. So it's Leeds away, then it's Villa home. Whoever the fucking other one, I can't remember. Home, and then it's also Leicester away in the last game of the season. So I mean, like, Leeds away is no joke, right?
No, exactly. No game is a given. Certainly for us, we've proven we can really draw or lose to anybody.
Right.
So again, on paper, you would expect this team to win with that kind of talent. But there's a few people out there saying, if a better manager than Mourinho had come in, I don't know, we'd be in a top 4 spot, or more than, or I guess less than 5 points, trailing Chelsea. Any validity to that?
I mean, these are such arbitrary questions, man. Yes, no, maybe. I mean, you don't know. I think all we know is we had a team that was playing scared with a manager who was playing scared, and they were both right in doing that, right? I don't know if sure, somebody may have come in and fixed it and made it better. And maybe they didn't, right? I mean, like, for me, the real test is Leeds away, boys, right? Like, we beat Southampton, who were in the worst form in the league. We beat Sheffield, who are the worst team in the league. Leeds are not world beaters, but they're a good team, and they play beautiful football. And they're going to be playing at home, and they will come forth, right? They're not sitting back. Southampton and Sheffield sat back. Leeds don't know how to sit back. They've never been managed. They've never been coached how to sit back. They're going to come against us. Either we're going to win the game 5-4 or we're going to lose it 5-4. But we are going to be tested. Our defense and our midfield will be tested. Those are our 2 biggest weaknesses. And neither Southampton, well, to some extent they did because they were on the front foot, but Sheffield never really tested that. So for me, I think that's the big one, is Leeds away. And then I think Villa home depends on what Jack Grealish is doing. I don't know. I mean, like, he's supposed to be back from injury soon. So if he's playing, that changes the whole dynamic. I would feel a lot better, playing Villa, if, without Jack Grealish. So, I mean, we still have some tough matches. If there's anything I've learned, is don't take a single match for granted this season, because we have won the games we shouldn't have, and we've lost the games we should have, that we also shouldn't have, right? So it's just all up in the air. I think we just have to kind of wait and see,
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, Sheffield really didn't have what it takes to obviously put pressure under our defense. Like, they are that bad. There's a reason why, again, they're challenging for being the worst Premier League team in the Premier League era. But any kind of pressure on our back line, we know, yields results for the opposition.
Yeah.
And I think, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to touch on Leeds really quick and just say, too, I think, I hate saying it because we need these points, but this is the one game where not having Mourinho does make me a little nervous. I think Leeds, the way Leeds play, they're going to be brave, and And Bielsa's gonna know there's like 4 or 5 specific moments where you will fuck him if you understand what you're doing, right? And Mourinho was like just tailor-made for an anti-Bielsa style of play. His record against Bielsa will tell you that too. It's very, very strong, right? So I don't think it's a coincidence that we fucking steamrolled Leeds last time under Jose. And like you said, Andrew, the way Mason has us playing, we are very, very suspect to concede like 4 or 5 goals in this game. So we'll see, but it's definitely the diciest game on our calendar, including Leicester, I think.
Yeah, I think you kind of know what you get with Leicester, but Leeds are just about in the top half of the table, which is pretty good for a team that's obviously just come up with more talent, but obviously some glaring holes. Now, Scott, we look at the championship, and actually Mort mentioned Jack Grealish, so there's another player that we passed up from the championship that clearly would have been a value buy. But you got Max Aarons in your background there. Tell us a little bit about why Max Aarons is in your room right now.
Well, I am a Max Aarons fan, and my fandom is exacerbated by the shit I get for it. So if you want me to be more obnoxious, just lay it on thick, and I'll keep talking. But all jokes aside, I do hear that we put a $30 million bid on the table today for Aarons.
How much?
$30 million.
From what source?
I don't remember. One of the sources that of course, you guys know I'm going to take with a grain of salt, right? But I'm having some fun, and Max Aarons is in my background because it is reported that we're in for him, us and Everton. We need a right back. I talked about this yesterday. Fullback has become a position where you have to develop. You're really not going to be able to go and buy a fullback unless you are willing to pay totally exacerbated wages for a fullback, and a fee rather. Like Kyle Walker, $62 million or whatever, for example, right? Now he's been solid, but we ain't spending $60 million on a fullback. So I think at this point we have to look at some guys who are promising and can be developed. I think if we're smart, we hold on to Aurier for another season, get Aarons in. Who cares what happens with Doherty? All due respect to him or whatever. I'm sure he's a great guy, but it's just not going to work for him at Spurs, I don't think. And I'd prefer us to get Aarons in as opposed to an Everton or whatever, because who else people talked mad shit about is Andy Robertson. They said that's ridiculous. He's never going to be good, blah, blah, blah. He was in a very similar position to Max Aarons. And here we are. So I think with the right management, Max Aarons is one of the better options we have right now to look long-term there. Mort doesn't agree, but I'm all in on Max Aarons, man.
Now, Mort, is that because we've got somebody in-house or because you've got your eye on another prospect?
You got one Foyth, man.
It's
one Foyth is far superior to Aarons. If you look at how well he's been doing for Villarreal, the guy's been killing it. He's one of the reasons that they won 2-1 against Arsenal in the first leg. He's had a remarkable season. Again, I think he's playing in a lesser league. Sorry for any of our Spanish listeners. There are none. So fuck La Liga. Y'all suck anyway. It's not going to travel that far. Trust me, we don't have any Spanish listeners. But Juan Foyth is having a phenomenal season. Why not bring him back for no extra money? If I have a choice between and Scotty, I don't dislike Aarons. I think this is more so like a financial decision, right? If I have a choice between spending $30 million on Max Aarons and dump Foyth, or bring Foyth in and spend $30 million on a center back, because we're going to have a restricted budget, man. We don't have a bottomless checkbook. So if I have a choice between putting that $30 million towards a solid center back or a right back, I'll put the money towards a center back, and I'll take my chances with Aurier, Doherty, and Foyth. And I remember Tanganga is also out there, right? Tanganga, he's not great at creating going forward as a right back, but he's a stout right back. He's very defensive minded, and he's done a great job there a few times I've seen him play there. So I think we have options there between Foyth and Tanganga and Doherty and Aurier. I just don't like any of our options at center back right now, so I'd much rather put that money there.
I think that's a fair shout, and I don't disagree at all. I do think I could conveniently make the argument that, his performances in Europa League are like one-off setups where it's a little bit easier to have somebody play a little bit out of position, right? But at the same time, it looks like he's done well there. So I'm not opposed to that, and I agree we need to spend money at center back much more so than at right back. I'd be curious to know if Juan Foyth maybe a look at center back for us. There's a lot of people that still feel like that's where he belongs. I also am not totally convinced that there's not an option for him to trigger a permanent sale to Villarreal, but they have to pay it, I guess. So It sounds
Only
like he
15
wants to
mil,
be there.
That's the problem. It's only
Yeah,
15
exactly.
mil.
So, sorry, say that again.
It's only 15 million for Villarreal to make Foyt's transfer permanent.
Yeah, so it's.
Do we have like a right of refusal or anything on that, or no? Or like, or do we not know?
If he doesn't want to go, it's kind of like the Bale thing. If Bale, or no, sorry, Reguilon's a better example. Like if Real Madrid want to bring back Reguilon, and he says no, then he stays. But it's the same.
I see.
And he's playing every game, right? So
another reason why we can't have Ryan Mason as the fucking manager, because no way is Juan Foyth going to be excited about coming back to Tottenham to be managed by Ryan. Love you, buddy, Mason. No way.
And honestly, man, like, you know, I've talked about it before. Our fans are incapable of accepting anything but like a high press, high octane style of football that, like, and this is just me being a pain in the ass, but like Foyth and Tanganga can't play the way that our fans demand us to play, like, period. So like, if you guys want to play on the front foot, then you need to sign Max Aarons. Like, he will get forward. He's actually a pretty good little defender. But my point is, like, I'm all for Tanganga at Foyth and right back. We have seen that if you play defensively, this fan base will fucking destroy the club overnight. Like, it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, but I've accepted that we're just going to have to play attacking football so the club doesn't fucking fold. But yeah, my little soapbox that I'll step down off of. So.
It is bizarre. I think you make a good point there that, like, there's this historical narrative that Spurs play beautiful football. Like, no, but we play beautiful.
We're terrible.
Right? And great to watch. And, like, and I know. Well, I mean, like, that's obviously the opinion of this pod, but people don't want to be like, I remember, you know, Pochettino, like, especially towards the end there. And again, like, having, you know, hindsight is 50-50 and now realizing he was far less of an issue than I thought. But, you know, there were times where we play a team like Liverpool when our defense had started to go wayward and he just refused to sit back. And like Sadio Mane would just run at Ben Davies and it was just a horror show. Like, I was a manager with at least the tactical flexibility to sit back and not allow them to run full speed at it's like having a point guard, you know, running at a center full speed. You're gonna run around him every time he gets half court. It's just it's not going to happen. So yeah, this weird narrative like it has to be on the front foot all the time. Like, we just win something and then we can complain.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why our next manager selection is so important, because I think we need somebody who has an established system, who's not going to experiment with our club to figure shit out. So we need an established system, and then somebody who has shown in the past to be flexible, whether it's changing the system holistically or making mid-match adjustments. And that's why my money is still in the Allegri or in like the Sarri like bucket. Those are the two guys I want, or you know, or Ralph Ragnick, right? These are guys who have proven themselves to have established schemes, established systems, but they've also shown the flexibility in their career to either holistically change their formations or make the correct mid-match adjustments to respond to opposition who is obviously prepared for you. So, you know, so that's where, you know, again, no knock to Ryan Mason, but he doesn't have that capacity yet. You know, when you listen to him, say, hey, you know, how you want to play? Well, we want to play out of the back. Cool, man. Like, show me why, but like that's not a tactical strategy, right? Like, there has to be a bit more robust than that. So I think that's where you get some of the more established. But I think that's why it's so important. And I think, Scotty, even to your point, right? Even a guy like Aarons, right? Where does he want to go? Does he want to go in a system that's just going to try to figure shit out as it goes along because there's no experience? Or does he want to go to an Allegri or Sarri or Ragnick, who have shown over time that they know how to set up their squads and win? So
yeah, great point.
We need stability, man. Like, more so than anything, we just need stability.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious why we don't seem to be more dedicated to going after Allegri, and maybe we are, and we're just not aware of that. But I mean, I will say the guy plays fairly defensive. He's not a Jose LeBlanc by any means, but he's definitely going to play defensive football. That makes me nervous, right? Like I said, I would love that, but it will fold our club. It literally will, because the fans are just ridiculous. So I think maybe, honest to God, that's why we are not hearing the name Allegri as much. But the dude won like 9 Scudettos in a row. Yeah. I know it's Serie A, but like times in a row.
Well, yeah, and he got to 2 Champions League finals. I mean, exactly. They lost to both, but yeah. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think his like 5 of those Scudettos are his, right, or 6 of them or something. But still, what I noticed about Allegri is he took a lot of players like a Pirlo, like a Barzali, who seemed to be kind of past it, and immediately injected them into the squad and fucking created a hell of a team with guys that were past it, you know, in the eyes of others. not that we haven't much of those, but I still think he could get a little bit more out of the squad. Granted, we need to rebuild the squad drastically, but there's a few guys that I think could really benefit from a guy like Allegri. So I'd like to see more of that name for sure. The dream move is like getting an Allegri and a Ragnick in or something like that, because I still think that guy should be our director of football the more I learn about him. But whatever. Just do something, Spurs, please.
Yep.
Yeah, you
exactly.
guys talk as if we have a plan. We all know we don't have a plan.
No, there's absolutely no plan. No.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
my only plan is to keep drinking, keep getting on podcasts, talking to you boys, and like if we fucking get top 4 or something cool, like I don't know.
We're not getting top 4, dude.
7
Stop
years
it.
ago. What?
We're not getting top 4, man. Get the fuck out of here. Like, dude, like.
We touched on Bale just a little bit at the very beginning, but just a question for you guys, because this is what I've been thinking. Despite, like, I'm ecstatic for the hat trick. I'm a huge Gareth Bale fan. I'm more excited than anybody. But my feeling, and I can't remember if I said this to you guys, is he still feels like a luxury player in that he doesn't defend a lot, like Son. Son doesn't defend a lot there. But when everything is so poor behind you, like, you can't have players who don't come back, track back, right? And so I would love to keep Gareth Bale, but without strengthening everybody behind him and, some defensive stability, like, I think that's why, you don't see him show up in some of those other games, because he can't sit forward and, just make plays, make things happen. Because we're already down 2 or 3-0 by the time that happens, because the defense is so bad. I mean, any disagreement there? We've got 1 minute to go, so you've each got 30 seconds to answer. Mort, going to you first.
No, I totally agree. I think that if we had more work rate in midfield, and maybe Sissoko from 2 seasons ago paired with Højbjerg, then like Bale makes perfect sense. Unfortunately, we do not have an industrious midfield. We have people who like to linger and phase out and cannot complete 5-yard passes. So I totally agree with you. I think until we shore up our midfield on that right side, Gareth Bale is very much a luxury player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's worth pointing out that Kane, Son, and Bale are now 79 goals and assists, which does make the most goals and assist tally of any front 3 in the world right now. Pretty fucking incredible. But That's amazing. Agree with you. I think the thing that we have to remember, and this is me being a total douchebag, I'm aware, but like it was Sheffield United who offered absolutely zero going forward, zero things. So like Bale got away with not tracking back. Son got away with not tracking back. If we're not playing Sheffield, I don't think that we bang 4 goals in, and we probably concede at least a goal. I don't know.
Leeds, if we do that against Leeds, we are
fucked, man.
Fucked.
I'm going to say actually out of nowhere, Bergwijn's got to play against Leeds, in my opinion. Like, I think
like Bergwijn or Lucas.
Yeah,
summarize as we come to an end here. Okay, Spurs have no plan. Gareth Bale is and the fans are the problem.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
And Max Aarons will fucking save us.
Okay. Yeah. You know what's interesting? The quality of this pod is not, so we're starting to play a little bit better, but our pod just keeps getting worse, right? So we gotta figure out a better balance between the quality of this pod and the quality of the squad. So we got to be the pod squad, So right, so we got to start doing better.
I'll talk to Getson.
Yeah.
We'll get it worked out. I'll talk to my boy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's a hell of a way to end things. For more. For Max Aarons in Scott's room, come on, you Spurs, join us next time on the Chicken Ball Pod.
On you Spurs.
Let's go.